So you realized getting a real job is kind of hard. You have to read books and stuff. So you want to become a YouTube influencer instead. You can become Z-list famous, like your buddy here, Camera Uncle, Camera Conspiracies. If you've ever wanted a camera, you've noticed there's others in competition, and it's like this versus that, Sony ZV-E1 versus Panasonic S5 II. We have 8 questions, comparisons. So like today, you will know everything. This versus that, DJI Pocket 3, is it gooder than the R8? I'll leave.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
Okay, we have a very interesting episode today. We're on the Blackmagic OG with the Leica 25mm 1.4. I just bought the speed booster for Canon EF lenses, 0.58 times speed booster. So drink in this image. We're gonna switch to the Canon EF 24mm 1.4, 85mm 135. Maybe a Canon C100 Mark II makes an appearance with the same lens. Oh man. Between S5 II or ZV-E1, what do you suggest for daily personal videos? The ZV-E1 is smaller, but S5 II has better IBIS and cheaper. It very much depends on what you're gonna do. We're not all the same YouTuber here. Some are racing kittens, others are like, this is how you farm. For me, we're not even having the same conversation here. Those two cameras, we're in different leagues. It's not even the same game. Sony ZV-E1 does 4K 120, HD 240, both with perfect autofocus. You have fun tracking modes that, oh, you can do that. Sony would do that for you. Panasonic, like you're doing 4K 60 only with a crop, and then HD 180 manual focus only. Like, who are you? You're not even in the same game here. Sony's lighter, cheaper, decent stabe, although you have to crop in dynamic stabe. But if you do a little catalyst browse, 5% crop, you're more stable than Panasonic. It just takes time and patience and anger. The lens choices alone on the Sony, just everything from E-mount, it's like, are we in the same room here? Like, one of you farted, I'm at the window trying to get out. Like, what are we doing here? It's not even, the only reason you would go with Panasonic is for your only vlogging, and you don't do anything fun, no little slow motion sequences for you. And then, yeah, it'll have better stabe with your bullshit L-mount lenses. Although, if you sprung for a Leica lens, like $5,000, then it's like, okay, that's the ultimate look. But the real luxurious moment for all of us is when you switch to a speed booster and forget Panasonic or Sony. We're on the 24mm 1.4L lens. Can't stop down the Tonys on this thing. My Nikon booster can. Buyer's remorse, immediate, indefinite. Yup, there's a little switch on the side that does nothing. I hate you so much, you bunch of pieces of shit. Everything I buy is a joke. For walk and talk and general walk around videos, which would you prefer? Sony ZV-E1 or Canon R8? Is the dynamic stabilization of Wealth IBIS ZV-E1 better than the Canon enhanced stabilization? Thanks. Enhanced? Are you joking? Why would you use that? Like 45% crop. So I've owned both. Marcus Pix gave me the Canon R8. Thank you, my friend. And I used it for a long time, loved it. It was like better looking than my A7S III, just the color science. I didn't have to tweak anything. There was never anything like, why is my face so yellow? Oh, lower this red, and then all the greens come out, and I hate that balancing game. So the R8, it didn't make the cut, the military training cut. Now, much like the Panasonic died a swift death in the last question, Canon, like, it's not even on the same level. Like, you're doing 4K 60 no crop, that's kind of cool. You do HD 180 with autofocus, so like you're better than Panasonic, but what lens are you going to use? RF lenses are the worst. Like, they're too expensive or big, and you still get no pop. Your flatness. You could do the 16mm 2.8, it has no stabe, the flattest lens on earth. It has like focus breathing like crazy. You could do the 15 to 35 stabilized lens, things weighs more than your arm weighs. It should carry you. Most Canon lenses have lens stabe, but it doesn't like work very good. And you do a little bit of stabe with it, digital 10%, you can get by. But like, it's the lens choices that are gonna F you, and they don't let third party even make autofocus lenses. You have like no choices, and the ones you do, you pay through the roof and you still get no pop. And while enhanced stay does work better than the 10%, it's barely better. It still gets the same exact like jerky movements, they just happen less often, and then it's such a huge crop that what's the even point? What's the even point? It's funny, I'm making fun of enhanced stay for 45% crop when the ZVE1 has like 43%. It's basically but another easy Sony victory. They have the better lenses, the more fun modes, higher specs, lighter, not cheaper. This is Canon R8, like that's damn cheap for full frame. It's like 1,000 dingers. Move away from me. Oh, hi, Canon C100 Mark II with the same lens. Huh? Autofocusing on that square. I don't know. It's a bigger sensor technically than the Blackmagic, but it's not the same look. I will be selling this immediately. I don't see where it fits into my life. If I want an old nostalgic feel, we do the Blackmagic. This is just worse than everything I own. What about the ZVE1 versus A7C2? Same weight, no 4K 120. You just debunked yourself. Well, that's not important. The most important. But can we spot the difference compared to HD 120? Of course you could. It's HD 120 versus 4K 120. It's a big difference. It won't look better. Viewfinder, 33 megapixels so you can crop a lot in video. That doesn't work, you morons. Oh, it's not a photo where you use the whole sensor. It's different. It's downsampled video. It's different. You cut off the top. It's 16:9. You can't really crop it. Maybe a little bit. You'll see it. It's like sharper, oversampled. It's like 6K to 4K. Tiny bit, but like who cares? Who even does that? That's more of a joke. When you see something off in the distance, you crop in, you expect it to look blocky. No one cares. Oh, it's 6K with hardly any loss. I lost your dog. Video reframing without the losing qualities. ZVE1 does that for you. Does the A7C do that as well? That would be cool. All the AI algorithms? I doubt it. The big downside is the stabe. That's a big downside. But the low light performance is quite the same. Look at video comparisons. I have the A7C too, but yeah, definitely miss the dynamic stabe and recording red light. The only reason you're looking at an A7C2 is if you're one of these hybrid freaks who take pictures sometimes. You need a viewfinder. It's like, okay, you have some merit, higher megapixel, but you lose so much for like more money, similar weight, heavier though, I bet. But it's basically an A7 IV, which is basically a Panasonic S5 II. So like the first question debunked that, and now you're bringing Sony's version of that. It's just a weird place to be. The A7 IV, A7C II, Panasonic S5 II, Canon R6 II, Z6 III of the Nicky boy. Oh, he destroys all of you. Do we have one question about that? That's my answer. Maybe the Nikon's better. Once you go Sony a7S III, you don't go back, unless it's a ZVE1, which is the same and better and cuter and funner and smaller and cheaper. So it's basically an a7S III shrunken, and then it peed on the a7S III, and it corrupted the memory card. I'll leave. You believe in it? 85 mil 1.2. Dare we dream it? Thin depth of field on a little tiny 2 megapixel sensor, super 16, but you're blurring out the Donnies. You believe in that. Beginner here, that much is obvious. DJI Pocket 3 or Canon R8 with the 16mm 2.8 enhanced DIS. Didn't you just ask? That was the same guy. Oh god, I hate you. Sometimes people ask a question upon multiple videos. Same question, I'm like, banned immediately. For walk and talk, general walk around videos, thanks. Did you learn nothing from the previous comment from your future when you asked it? 100% you get the DJI Pocket 3. It's not even close. It'll be so stable, so light. It's so, like, sometimes I want to vlog with something a little nicer, and then I'll bring the ZVE1, and yeah, it's a little nicer. But like, for the most part, the Pocket 3 destroys. It seeks and it hunts, and it has laser beams, and all the camera companies run. I've vlogged a couple times on the R8 with the 24mm 1.4 with just EIS, the regular, not even the huge crop. It worked okay because it was so heavy. I think the heavier setup, the more stable it will be. So your little RF 16mm, like that's super light. It's gonna be very jittery and it's just gonna look so nasty. It's not EF glass. The only reason you're in Canon is for the old EF glass. Adapted autofocus performance that's like the same as native. Whereas like you do adapt it to any other system, it's not the same. The IBIS doesn't work, the autofocus never works, or the camera doesn't even turn on. And then add to that the fact that the R8 has those super hard to edit files that lock you into 10-bit C-Log 3 and you're all in one thing, whereas like the R5 II now lets you do 10-bit in your standard profile. And they have the XF ABC codecs that are just super easy to play. So if you're a beginner, unless you're a beginner and you had like this NASA computer, and then you're editing the files, or just a simple M1 Mac probably will suffice. But if you're in the PC world, you don't have those options. So R8, it's a nice look on paper, but they crippled it hard. The autofocus hunted a lot. I think that was on purpose. It's dual pixel autofocus, but it just doesn't work. They added in little algorithms that make it jump away on purpose, for sure, guaranteed. Like why? The Canon 70D was more reliable. What happened? My Canon C100 is more reliable. Okay, I'm curious what the difference is between this lens and the Zeiss 85mm 1.4 planar for the Nikon mount. Now that I have both setups, let's do a switcheroo. Okay, now we're on the Zeiss 85mm 1.4 legendary lens, but I find when I compare them, the 85 1.2 from Canon is the better one, although the Tony Balls might disagree. The onion rings of the Canon versus not having that. But there's a special glowy hue, I tell you. Is the 1.2 worth it though? 0.2. For someone that has no gear, would you suggest Canon or ZV-E1? Mainly for travel videos with shots like you do in nature. Are you the same guy? I swear I will ban you to Satan's Lounge. Now, like we already discussed, where were you? Canon is not as good. That's the fact. But say you threw out the R8 of that equation and you're thinking ZV-E1 versus Canon R5 II. Okay, thousands of dollars more, but now you might have something. You might. You get C-Log 2. That's about it. That's all you get. That hurts. You do 8K 60 RAW, but like you need to attach a computer to it because there's no file space that could hold it. I've been debating for a little while, like, do I want the R5 II? And it's just like, why? The ZV-E1 destroys it basically, just for so much cheaper and lighter and more fun modes inside of it, and all my lenses and way more options for Zeiss lenses and adapting things. You have your EF native advantage, that's it. But like maybe color science, I don't know, is it even a thing? Probably not. Canon has lost a lot of ground to Sony. Like, I do believe Sony leads the industry now. There's a lot of weird graphs and online. You don't know who to believe, who's buying what, in what country. Like in Zimbabwe, Canon's right up there. But like worldwide, mirrorless, like we're talking video shooters here, not these Olympics DSLRs that you haven't upgraded your 1DX Mark 1, like no one cares about you. Well, photo finish. I touched the mic. People use Sony for a reason. It's just reliable and easy, especially if you're filming yourself. You can just trust it to move around your shot. It's gonna get you. It doesn't hunt. Like Canon's I'm always paranoid about it just latching onto the background. And the R5 II overheats, if we're being real. I saw a guy doing a little talking head video and he was doing HDMI and I was watching the bars increase. It was up to like halfway. I was like, if you did a long video, it's done for. All right, 2 more questions here. Since we've been singing the praises, I've been shill tubing for ZV-E1. We're now on it with that same lens we were just on, Nikon 85mm 1.4. Might do that 1.2 for the last question. What was your question? What do you think of the Canon R6? My camera, not the R6 II. No one cares about your life. And there's another guy we're combining. Casey, what do you think about the R6? I saved them both. But it's interesting the field of view difference, huh? We're in the same exact spot, full frame versus whatever the hell we were with those boosty modes. The original R6 is one of the worst cameras ever, just because You cannot save custom modes to video, only photos. That was like a stupid cripple on purpose. The color science wasn't the best. Super hard to edit files. When the R6 II came out, it was like the best upgrade you could ever imagine. We got 180 frames per second instead of 120. You could save the custom modes now, and you had all this like false color and wow, look at me. It was just the better camera in every way. They both suck because you're Canon, but affiliate links will be available to you. I moved. Your bullshit question bored me, and I had to entertain myself by switching things up a notch. The R6, man, like I can't imagine anyone getting that. For me, the 6D Mark II would be fun. Like that's just 1080p only. I could see that happening, but R6, like the 1 or the 2, neither. The R8 is basically an R6 II, but cheaper, smaller, funner. Same disappointments though, the hard to edit files. You just get IBIS, but it's wobbly anyway. So it's like, come on now, 6D2, that could be fun for this kind of stuff. I'm hoping the R6 III isn't crippled too hard to where it's like actually better for video than the R5 II. Then I would consider it, but you have to beat at least one Sony a7S III spec. Like, come on. I'm not upgrading for the same 4K 120 HD 240. Everybody, we're moving past that at some point together, holding hands, and we're like, oh, 480. Wow, someone did it finally. Like, when is it gonna happen? It's 2020 that came out. We're done. Just improve it already. I already have it. The answer is ZV-1. Okay, last question. Final boss mode achieved. The ultimate full frame Canon 1.2 at the 85. Is it better than the Zeiss? Final form achieved. 85mm 1.2 on a full frame, adapted, no autofocus allowed. Peeking on the glasses. Imagine if I had just filmed this video answering all questions with one camera. That would have been so much easier. Did you gain anything from me doing these comparisons? Gear I've already compared. Oh boy. Last question. If you had to choose between a Z30 16 to 50 kit lens or a ZV-1, wow, if you never changed lenses, what would it be? I asked that same question to somebody. It was the Samsung NX500 or the Canon G7X, and I said, if I never changed the kit lens out, which would be better? And he was like, well, if you never changed the kit lens, then the G7X. And I went with that. It was Max Yuriev, I think, and it was the better camera. I'm glad I got that G7X. I won it back. So for your modern day version of that question, I had the Nikon Z30. I was kind of shocked initially that it looked so nice. It was just like, oh, pleasing colors. It was better than Sony in a lot of ways, but I don't know, over time, it started hunting a lot and it just never had my ass. The stabe kind of sucked and I just got bored with it. The battery life wasn't very good. If it's me, the ZV-1 has a lot of problems as well. I know I'm sounding like a Sony shill today, but they just make better stuff. It's more fun for YouTubers. No one's really targeting us. Sony's the only one, and they don't really know what they're doing. They have some ideas, though. There's a couple hip Japan boys down there. It's like, hey, man, that'd be cool. What if we tracked you around? It's like, that's cool. The ZV-1 had the problem where the tripod was blocking the battery door. The battery door sucked. The stabe, it was like very jerky, and if you did want good stabe, it was like a super 45% crop on an already not very wide lens. But you did have 960 frames per second slow-mo, and it was fun to do. I personally, those two, oh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. It's not that tough. Sony ZV-1, you get funner slow-mo modes. You could also zoom in to 70mm and get some compression. It wouldn't be very nice. Like if you slap a 40mm Tony 2 Nikon lens on the Nikon, it's like, okay, now Nikon's pulling ahead, but it wasn't very reliable. It was cheap. It was an under-thought of child. The Z50 Mark II looks like the same afterthought type of thing. I'm just hoping that DJI comes and pounces on everyone and then they're all afraid and then they actually start going to work. They better. So who won today's episode, my friend? We started on the Blackmagic OG with the Leica 25mm 1.4 native micro four thirds lens. We then witnessed immediate buyer's remorse by someone buying a Canon speed booster that was $680 Canadian, and no one will ever buy it when he tries to sell it. But there's the 24mm 1.4. Then we used that same lens on the Canon C100 Mark II. Had to move a little closer to get similar framing, but there we have that cinema cam, 8-bit, fun, autofocus, never hunts. Then we kicked things up a notch to the 85mm 1.2 on the Blackmagic speed booster. That was fun times. It was too good for our own good. And then we switched the speed boosters to a Nikon version, Zeiss 85mm 1.4. 0.2 Tony's less, but magical Zeiss qualities. Then for some reason we put that lens on a full frame body, manually focused, and then we had Sony disgusting color science with Zeiss magic possibilities. And now we're on the Canon EF 85mm 1.2 to sing the swan song as I walk off into the sunset. Did someone win? You know who didn't win? My bank account. And now I have more gear that I hate. Wow, I can't move at all. I'm already out. All this leaning. Was I in for any of that? Oh God, only right here are my glasses. Oh man. Just leave. Leave now. You've been helped. And I lost money. You redonating it with Bitcoin technology. Subscribe for more now. See you next.